All right, today we're diving into a query language that does something pretty special. It's not just about finding data, it's about understanding what that data actually means. It's called SPARQL, and it was built for a world of deeply interconnected information. So, let's just jump right in.
I want you to just think about this for a second. What if you could ask your database a question, not just about what's in a specific column, but what the data means in the real world? What if it could connect the dots for you automatically? That's the core idea we're going to unpack today.
So, to really get why SPARQL even exists, we first have to talk about the problem it was designed to solve. And that problem is trying to ask questions of these massive, messy, and super interconnected webs of data.
I mean, think about the kind of questions we need to answer these days. They are not simple lookups. You're asking things like, which scientific papers mention the specific gene, not just in my database, but in all the big public ones? Or, show me every connection between a drug, its side effects, and any clinical trials. These are the kinds of complex questions that make traditional databases just throw their hands up in the air.
And you know, the simple truth is, our standard tools just weren't built for this. SQL is absolutely brilliant for structured tables, and graph languages like Cypher are fantastic for finding patterns in a graph you already have. But the moment you need to understand the semantic meaning of your data, or query information that's scattered all over the web, they really start to hit a wall. And that, of course, is where our main character enters the scene. So let's break down exactly what SPARQL is.
Okay, so the official definition sounds a little dry, but the key words here are really important. First, it's pronounced SPARQL, which is kind of fun, but more importantly, it is the official W3C standard for querying a specific data model called RDF. This isn't some niche, one-off tool. It's a fundamental building block of the semantic web. Now, this right here, this analogy is the single best way to get your head around it. If you work with data, you know SQL. It's the language you use to talk to relational databases. Well, in the world of semantic, linked data, the world of RDF, SPARQL plays that exact same absolutely central role.
So what is this RDF data model that SPARQL queries? Well, at its core, it's incredibly simple. It represents every single piece of information as a three-part sentence, a triple. You have a subject, a predicate, which is just a fancy word for the relationship, and an object. That's it.
And this makes it so easy to understand. Instead of a complicated row in a database table, you just have a simple, clear fact. For instance, patient 123, the subject, has a diagnosis, the predicate, of diabetes, the object. Every single piece of knowledge, no matter how complex, gets broken down into these fundamental building blocks.
Okay, now we get to SPARQL's first real superpower. It's not just about finding data that you've explicitly written down. It's about finding answers based on what can be inferred from the data. This is called reasoning, and it's a huge deal.
Just look at this comparison. It says it all. On the left, a traditional query asks for things that are explicitly labeled as a mammal. If nothing has that exact label, you get an empty result. Nothing. But on the right, a SPARQL query asks the exact same question and boom, it returns dog, cat, and human. How? Why? Because there's an underlying model, an ontology, that has defined that dogs, cats, and humans are types of mammals. SPARQL uses that knowledge to reason its way to the right answer, even when the data isn't explicit. That is an absolute game changer.
So that reasoning ability is incredibly powerful. But now let's talk about SPARQL's second superpower, which takes this whole idea and makes it global. See, SPARQL was designed from day one for the web. It's not stuck inside a single database.
This is called a federated query. It sounds complicated, but the idea is amazing. Inside a single SPARQL query, you can use a special keyword called service to literally point to a completely different database somewhere else on the internet. You can grab data from a public biology database, combine it with your company's internal research, all in one go, and get back one single, clean, unified result. It's unbelievably powerful.
So all of this sounds great in theory, right? But who is actually using this stuff in production, in the real world?
Well, the answer is some of the biggest data operations on the planet. You know those info boxes that pop up when you search on Google? That's the Google Knowledge Graph, and it's built on these exact principles. IBM Watson uses it for deep knowledge representation. The BBC organizes all of its TV shows, articles, and sound clips with it. And it's the absolute backbone for critical work in healthcare, life sciences, and even financial compliance.
Okay, so you're a developer or a data architect. You see the power. How do you decide if SPARQL is the right tool for your next project? This table lays it out perfectly. Just focus on 2 rows, reasoning and federation. Look at that. SPARQL has strong native support. Cypher and Gremlin, which are fantastic languages for property graphs, don't get me wrong, they just don't have this stuff built in. It's not what they were designed for. SPARQL's sweet spot, its reason for being, is the semantic knowledge graph.
So let's just quickly recap its biggest strengths. It's a stable, long-term W3C standard. It's built from the ground up for understanding semantic meaning. It's got those unique federated query powers, and it's basically the perfect language for building the knowledge core of modern AI systems.
But hey, no tool is perfect, right? We have to be balanced here. The cost of all that power is, well, complexity. The whole RDF data model and thinking in terms of ontologies, it's a steeper learning curve than something like a property graph. It forces you to be a bit more structured and rigorous up front.
So here's the bottom line. This is your checklist. You reach for SPARQL when the meaning of the data is just as important as the data itself. You use it when you need that ontology-driven reasoning. You use it when you absolutely have to query across different distributed systems. You use it when you're building a true knowledge engine, not just a database.
And this quote really just nails it. SPARQL isn't trying to be a better Cypher or better SQL, it's playing a different sport altogether. It was built to solve a completely different and, you could argue, a much harder class of problems where things like meaning, inference, and knowledge integration are everything.
So, I'll just leave you with this thought. Your data, right now, is full of hidden connections and implicit knowledge. The real question isn't just about storing it, it's whether you're asking the right questions and whether you have the right tools to finally get the answers.